Welcome to MCN and welcome to Valencia for the launch of Triumph's new 400 range. So we've got the Speed 400 there and the Scrambler 400X. We've been waiting so long to ride the final production bikes. Emma, our deputy editor, managed to ride the pre-production bike last year and she absolutely loved it. These bikes have been 5 years in the making and now we finally have the finished article. So this is Triumph's first foray into small capacity machinery, built in association with Bajaj, who make a host of small capacity machines for other manufacturers. It's sort of their way into not only getting new riders, getting experienced riders on cheaper bikes, but also expanding into other markets as well. So they were saying that in India alone, the bike market is 18 million new bikes a year. So you can see why they want a slice of that pie when they're selling sort of 85,000 bikes a year. So as a bit of context, it makes a lot of sense. And in the world we live in now, it's so nice to have a bit more quality machinery that isn't super duper expensive. So if you just forget about the capacity and look at these as Triumph Scramblers, they look the part. They look absolutely brilliant up close. The detail on them is really nice. The finish is lovely. There's some really nice little extra bits and bobs they've sort of put onto it as well, just to sort of finish the look. So like the radiators have been made really small just to aid with the appearance. They've really tried their best to route the wiring out the way and they just look really clean, really tidy. And I hate the word premium, but they don't look like a bike that's 4,995 and 5,595. They look like bikes that could easily be 9-10 grand. They sit really well in with the current Scramblers and the current Speeds that are pretty much twice the price and more than double the capacity. So as a bit of a technical overview, it's a new engine, new chassis, whole new platform. So the new 398cc single makes just over 39 horsepower, just over 27 foot-pound of torque, which is about where it should be in this sort of sector. It also is 170 kilos wet, so that's fully ready to go for the Speed, and 179 kilos for the Scrambler. So when you compare that to something like the Royal Enfield, which is an obvious competitor, it is a hell of a lot lighter. Now, you probably look at this and just think, oh, the Scrambler's the same bike just with higher set of bars and, you know, a bit more suspension travel, but the two bikes are actually very different as well. So the chassis is actually individual for each bike. It's got different geometry. The Scrambler has longer travel suspension, a bigger 19-inch front wheel. It has different size disc. It has different pads. It has a longer wheelbase. It is a very, very different machine. It even has different foot pegs and different rear brake pedal. And it also has an off-road mode where you can switch off ABS and traction control. So the two are quite different. So we're going to start with the Speed. I spent all morning on the Speed just to try and get the mileage in, just to try and get used to it, get a feel for what it's like. And it is absolutely bloody marvellous. For a bike that is under 5 grand, Triumph have created a proper motorbike. We're going to start with the chassis because that is my favourite bit. It is incredibly capable, it's incredibly agile, it's really, really light on its feet for changes of direction, mid-corner. It's so planted and so poised. And the suspension offers so much support and so much feedback. It feels like a real premium bit of kit. There's loads of support on the front and rear. The preload's also adjustable if you wanted to knock a little bit off, which you might do in the UK if you want to ride it a bit slower. But it feels like a proper, well-built machine. The Triumph obviously give it all that press stuff about, oh, it's going to have similar geometry to the Street Triple, but it does have that super sweet handling that is pretty much becoming a trademark of Triumph Roadsters. And the way it handles is just, it far exceeds the £4,995 price tag. To add to that, the brakes are incredible too. You get loads of feel through the lever, you get loads of bite, and it truly is just an absolute joy to ride. In the UK where the roads aren't the best, and if you're just going for a nice B-road blast, that is more than enough in terms of its handling capabilities to have a cracking time. It is really just a brilliant bit of kit. The engine's good too. It's a really perky little thing. It loves to be revved. It's got a really broad range of torque and power. So from sort of 4,500, 5,000 RPM, it just really pulls. And it's quite happy sitting a gear or two higher as well. So you can sit in third and fourth where you might usually be in second or third, and it's quite happy just to pull from the bottom of the rev range all the way up. It is quite nice and linear when you get it above 3,000 RPM, and it has an absolutely lovely purr to it as well. It does feel like it has character, shall we say. But on the flip side, it is quite buzzy. When you're sort of sitting at 70, it's sitting over 6,000 RPM, it's quite a buzzy thing. And although the gearbox is absolutely divine in how smooth it is going up and down the box, you barely need to even clutch or throttle to go down. Gearing's a bit odd, it's just so short and so sharp. I actually stopped using first gear today because it literally is just 0 to 8 or 9 mile an hour. And the throttle pickup is really responsive as well, so it sort of exacerbates it. It's quite aggressive in first gear, and it is an excitable little thing. It can be docile, but it's not the smoothest single in the world. But then again, it's just such a complete package. It would be remiss of me not to talk about the speed without mentioning the incredible Metzeler Sporttech M9 RRs that just sort of complete the package, because it's so nice to have a bike that's so cheap and come with such quality kit. And it's comfortable too, to an extent. Like, it doesn't feel like a 400 in terms of its stature. Although it appears smaller than the Scrambler, there's more than enough space. I'm 5'7", I've found it more than roomy enough. And a couple of the other gents with us were sort of getting on for 6 foot, and they have more than enough leg room. Although, if you're going to be doing big miles in the saddle, it does get a bit hard after a couple of hours. But it's just an incredible machine. You jump on it, it feels like you're on a big capacity speed. Just because you've got small capacity, it doesn't mean you need to lose out on anything else. It's a really solid package. But that's only half the story, because after lunch, I transferred to this, the Scrambler 400X. So we touched on a few of the differences earlier. Essentially, it's got longer travel suspension. It's got a 19-inch front wheel instead of the 17 on speed. It's got different tyres, so it comes with Metzeler Cruise Street, still a real good quality tyre. You get hand guards, you get radiator protection, headlight protection, sump guard, different seat, tank pads. The list goes on of all the little goodies you get for it. And for all of that, it's only an extra 600 quid. And obviously you've got the slightly different chassis to the speed as well, like we mentioned earlier. So in terms of appearance, the Scrambler just wins every time. It is absolutely beautiful. Only last month I was riding the 1200s, and it has that same feel about it. It looks quality, it looks smart. You've got the big, high, wide bars. It is a truly impressive bit of kit. It feels a bit vaster in terms of its stature, because obviously the riding position's up and you're out a bit. It's got a pose that far exceeds what you'd expect from a sub 400cc machine. Now, I won't go into too much detail about the engine, because it's pretty much the same on that, besides a slight gearing change, which Triumph are doing it to offset the change in the tyre sizes. So it's pretty much the same in terms of the engine. It's good, but it's very eager, very direct on the throttle. It's the same sort of thing, but one thing I must say is, dynamically, the Scrambler isn't quite as precise and agile as the Speed, as you'd expect. So what you get for the extra looks, what you get for the extra stature, you sort of lose out a bit in terms of its riding abilities. So although it's got a bigger disc on the front, Triumph have actually changed the brake pads in order to make it more progressive off-road. And in doing that, it's sort of lost all of its feel through the front brake. Much softer, much spongier than it is on the Speed. The two feel like they're very different bikes. It's nowhere near as agile, and with the long travel suspension, you don't quite get that same feel for the front end that you do on the Speed. If you're interested in doing some bit faster riding, the Speed is definitely for you. Don't get me wrong, the Scrambler's still a lovely bit of kit in terms of how the chassis and the suspension works in unison, but it just doesn't quite have that last few percent that the Speed offers. We also had a chance to take it off-road. Comes with bash plate, comes with the Metzeler Cruise Streets, as we mentioned earlier. So it is sort of targeted at doing the odd green lane, that sort of thing. And it's not the most capable or the most at home off-road either. So the 19-inch front wheel doesn't quite feel planted from dust and gravel. And if you're riding slower, you sort of want it to be in second, but it's quite aggressive on the pickup as well. So it's good that you can turn the ABS and traction control off, but on the flip side, it's not a bike that I'd jump to go off-roading on. For the odd gravel road, the odd green lane, that's fine. But if you want to do a bit more, there are better bikes out there. Out of the two, being predominantly a road rider who just lives for tight and twisty B roads, the Speed is the most incredible combination of handling, performance and price. Forget about these bikes being sub 400cc, because they feel like more than that. They feel like proper scramblers. They feel like proper speeds. And the engines are punchy enough as well to offer you all the performance you need in the real world. If you're more about style over substance, you can't beat the Scrambler. But also remember that it's got a slightly taller seat height, so it will be a bit more of a reach. If you truly want the best package dynamically, the speeds absolutely blow my socks off. It almost makes me worried that if you go into a dealership to go and buy a Scrambler 900 or a Speed Twin 900, have a go on one of these, because not only will it save you a buckload of money, but it offers such an incredible ride. It may have taken Triumph 5 or so years to develop these bikes, but I'm bloody glad they have. They certainly deliver.